Hey there everyone, and welcome back to my channel once again, and today I'm going to be talking about the top 10 things that I wish to see return in Resident Evil 7. So remember that this is a subjective list. Now I'm not saying this is what everybody wants, I'm not even basing this on the main things, this is just my personal opinion. I am a big time fan of the Resident Evil franchise. I've played all of the Resident Evils almost since Resident Evil 1 on the original PlayStation, and I love the series. So without any further delay, let's just get right into the actual list.
I'm counting on you.
So at number 10 we have restricted inventory space. Now in the older Resident Evil games you had a very limited amount of space and you had to store things within chests within the games, and this was a very important thing because you really had to manage your inventory. You couldn't carry like 5 weapons and 20 RPG bullets and this, that and the other and like 20 meds, and things didn't like stack up into huge amounts and shit. You really had to be careful with this. Like in Resident Evil 6 and 5 you could carry multiple weapons and loads of gear and it was no problem and ammo was everywhere, but I really hope they restrict the inventory space a lot more in 7 and go back to the roots with that. At number 9 we have puzzle solving. Now this is already confirmed to be in the game. So we are all lucky on that, and I'm really happy, but I still want to include it in the list anyway. And the reason that I would say that is because puzzle solving has been a part of Resident Evil's history. It is a very important part of the game. You cannot have a Resident Evil game without puzzle solving, and this just definitely had to make a return. And for that, it had to be on the list. We all fucking love it. At number 8, we have melee fighting. So something we haven't had too much in the previous game. Now we have had melee counterattacks and things like that, and being able to like, you know, fucking whack on the spot. Wow, that sounded retarded. Whatever. Anyway, we did have the capability to like fight, but you know, you had to aim and do it on the spot. It was very wonky, and so it wasn't exactly one of the bigger points in the game, let's be honest. Like, it was cool to do some of the counterattacks and stuff, but it wasn't like a big empire. You couldn't like do a melee fucking, well, you could do a melee run, but come on, you didn't do melee runs on Resident Evil anyway. And melee fighting, we've seen the axe and things in the Resident Evil demos, and I'm really hyped for that, and I hope they actually put that more into the game. Really would love that. A lot of more hack and slash features, and it would look really nice, and it would work really nice with the ability to smash crates and stuff to reveal objects, like some of the other traditional things we expect from Resident Evil games. So at number 7, I want more continuation of the lore. So I know Resident Evil 7 is going to be a bit detached from the Resident Evil storyline while still being connected to it. They're going to try and put you in more of a civilian's perspective and somebody that's just trying to survive the situation rather than, you know, part of a government agency or a fucking veteran soldier. But what I still want is more continuations and explanations of everything the world's been up to in the last few years, where the organizations have been, you know, what has been happening, and also I want to know what some of the popular characters have been up to. I know we're not going to be playing Chris Redfield or anything, or we're not going to get to see Leon, but I would still like to see references to them and where they're at. Popular characters definitely have to be referenced in the game, as well as I'd like to see what the country's relationships are with each other at the moment, because they've been in quite a lot of tension in the previous game. So I'd like to see over the last few years how things have kind of panned out. So at number 6, I want to see past zombies returning to the franchise. So in this one, I wanted to say that although the game will be featuring what looks like to be some kind of new virus based on what we've seen from Marguerite and Jack Baker, they do look infected, but they're coherent and smart.
Oh, there you are. You gave us quite a scare, young lady.
And that's kind of interesting in itself, and it definitely looks like a new virus because it doesn't look like they're under some kind of control or influence like the previous La Plaga virus, I think it was called, but they definitely look like they were acting off their own volition and will. I know that's going to be explored a lot, and it's cool to have a new virus in each game, but I would still like to see some of the old monsters and zombies return. You know, just some of the classical old zombies that are dumb and stupid, but I would also like to see some stuff like lickers and things like that. Definitely some of the old gems of the franchise return. The old zombies and monsters have made several recurrences through Resident Evil, some of the more iconic ones, so I'm definitely sure they'll make a return this time. So I'm kind of hyped for that, but I do want to see that in the game. At number 5, we have using VHS tapes in-game to actually solve puzzles and gain more insight into areas. It's kind of a weird title for number 5, but you know, that's how I roll. Deal with it.
I'm counting on you.
basically in the demos, you did actually have to use the VHS tapes to progress the areas, get more insight into them, and to see a reflection of how it was from the past to the present. And I thought that was really interesting use, and I knew that was kind of like a demo mechanic, but I really hope that that is returned into the full game. It would be also interesting to see the areas from different characters' perspectives and see how the events may have panned out, you know, because when you see a story and you get a reflection from the past and the present, and an amount of time has lapsed between the two, it kind of tells a story itself without any dialogue being said, and I just think that element in itself hasn't been explored too much in games, and that could be a really cool feature. So 4 is creepy areas and scenery. Now, some of the old Resident Evils had some very creepy areas and scenery. Like, some of the hives and things have been intense. Like, they are full of dread and blood and bodies everywhere, and just an overly sense of fucking death. And that definitely has to return. I mean, in Resident Evil 4, that started to disappear a little bit, and in Resident Evil 5, a little bit more, although there were still some creepy areas in Resident Evil 5, but in Resident Evil 6, it almost disappeared completely. Like, again, there was still a few areas, but it's almost as if most of the game had been just generated into looking like a Hollywood set or something. It was not the kind of feeling you'd expect from a Resident Evil game. So going back to a mansion, I really do hope that we get more creepy areas and scenery again. That would definitely make me happy. So at number 3, we have the feeling of being prey, not the predator. So again, going back to some of the earlier games, Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, etc., we had the feeling of really being the prey. Like, we were on the fucking run. We were the ones being hunted. We were the ones being scared. Every encounter was really deadly, and we never really wanted to engage things, although we had to, and it was scary. But in Resident Evil 4, you started towards the mid and end of the game become a complete predator. It almost felt like the zombie should have been fucking running from you and not the other way around. So I really hope that when they bring Resident Evil 7 back, you get that kind of overall dread feeling, like you're the survivor of the situation. You know, it kind of feels like you're surviving the outbreak and you're trying to push through and just live, not trying to fucking hunt down something with a goal and ambition. You got like a professional team and no martial arts and all that. I really hope they bring back that sense of dread again. It was very important to the old Resident Evil titles. So at number 2, we have customization and upgrading weapons and gear. So in Resident Evil 4, they had started to add the ability to mess around with your weapons and upgrade them to a larger extent, increasing your clip size and damage and other things like that. And in Resident Evil 5, they continued upon and expanded upon that and made it even better. And it was really good, to be honest. It was working really fine, and I really enjoyed the gun customization in the games. It added a lot of replay value, more so than most people would think. Just being able to continuously grind the game and then upgrade those weapons and play them with your friends and show them how badass you are, it really gave you a sense of progression, and I agreed that was a big part of what made the games more fun. So I definitely hope they add more customization, because in Resident Evil 6, it's like they took a backtrack. They made it so that you add character skills, and then those skills can sometimes scale with the weapon classes and things, but you didn't really upgrade your weapons individually, and you didn't get that sense of pride over individual weapon. And again, once you upgrade the character class skill, even if you got a new gun in that class, it gave you no progression to work with that gun anymore. So I hope they add and increase the amount of customization upgrading on the weapons and gear themselves and not just the character. And I hope they do not scrap that mechanic completely. That is one of the things that has me worried, and that's why it makes it so high on this list, because this was such a good feature, and I definitely implore the devs to make this come back. At number 1, and this had to make the number 1 spot. This is gotta be the biggest staple of a Resident Evil game. I mean, big boss fights are intensely important to Resident Evil. If you did not have big boss fights in a Resident Evil, it would literally be like having a Dark Souls game without fucking bosses, or a Metal Gear Solid game without having any bosses. The depth and meaning to the game just completely disappears. Resident Evil's got an amazing amount of bosses too, with an amount of variety to them and diversity in ways of taking them down. They're all so fucking unique and they're so memorable. Everybody remembers the big encounters with such as the Nemesis early on in the games, or even in the later games like the Ouroboros. Like, they had interesting bosses and all of them just looked and worked so differently. They were fucking amazing. I could go on forever about how memorable and good the bosses are in the Resident Evil series. So it is fucking important, so important, that this aspect returns. They definitely need to remember to put the bosses in. If Capcom has forgot this feature, they have literally ruined the game. But I am sure they are going to have a plethora of amazing bosses. I am so sure that the demo is just a tease to the game. The game is going to be fucking amazing when it comes to bosses, at least. I could not see Capcom at all removing this, but this still had to go at number 1 on the list because of that reason. If anybody is talking about a Resident Evil game, some of the biggest things that usually comes up are the memorable boss fights as the first conversations. I know everyone has that feeling. It is so good. So without any further delay, guys, anyway, that was my list. I hope you enjoyed that. That's personally what I want from the new Resident Evil. I put quite a lot of thought into the list, and I looked at the past Resident Evil games, and I took a lot of depth over different things I enjoyed, and there are a lot of things that missed this list, and I'm sure you guys had a lot of things that you definitely wanted included in Resident Evil 7 that weren't included in this video. And if you did have anything like that, then don't delay. Just tell me below, guys, and I will meet you in the comments below, and I will talk to you about them, because honestly, there is so many things that make a Resident Evil game what it was, and I know the game has kind of staled lately, and it's got a little bit boring, so if they brought back some of the older features that made the game what it is, and then merged it with the new first-person gameplay and such, I'm sure they could make an amazing game. So yeah, guys, if you have anything you want to discuss about that, I would love to hear what you've got to say. And if you enjoyed the video, guys, I would appreciate the fuck out of you guys if you left me a like and a subscribe. I'm kind of a lowly new growing YouTuber, guys, so I would appreciate any support you can give me. It would mean so fucking much to me. So without any delay anyway, guys, I'll let you all get to your next video or discuss what you need to discuss. So without any delay anymore, I'll just get to the end of this and have a beautiful day.